Hello friends, how are you today? I thought that I would get on video and talk to you. It's been a few days since I released a video, and I thought I would talk about why I periodically do not release a video for 4, 5, or 6 days. I wanted to just tell you what goes on for me when that's going on. And this is one of the times where it's going on. I feel like I have so much to say, and I have all these ideas going on in my head about what to communicate, like what I'm observing. And what I find is that a day will go by, and suddenly a piece of the puzzle will come to me in a way that kind of clicks things together and creates an understanding or an observation for me that allows me to tell the story about the energy, whether I'm interpreting the Schumann chart or usually the Schumann chart or something else, that allows me to really get it in a way that over the days that I've been like just kind of thinking over these things, that where it's not together yet. Sometimes I feel like I just want to come together perfectly. It also happens that during these times, I will start to just get this incredible jumble of emotions. And some of them are, you know, your typical getting down on myself. Some of them are, you know, all these made up stories I might have about what's going on. Are they made up stories? Yeah, but they can be like real feelings. But then if I check in on it, like right now I'm checking in on one of the ways I've been feeling, and I get that it's not mine. You know, so it's kind of like echoes of as I evolve into this way of doing things. It's funny because I've mentioned it before, but I have given many speeches and many talks in my work in front of sometimes very tough audiences, you know, where they're going to really ask you questions. And if you don't know the answers, you know, good luck. I actually loved that kind of environment because it really, you know, really keeps you on your toes. But this always feels different to me, this topic, because it's something, talking about energy may not seem personal to people, but it is deeply personal to me because it's something that I have been thinking about for almost my whole life, and thinking about it and not sharing it for almost my whole life. So to share about it can be sometimes challenging for me because, you know, there's a feeling sometimes of, you know, coming out of hiding or coming out of the darkness, or, you know, retrieving aspects of the self and then sharing them. Well, that's kind of really personal. And when I say aspects of the self, you know, the personal journey that I've had is a lot of how I've learned a lot of the techniques that I have. But I was also born with a lot of squares to my moon. And squares are challenges, you know, and I would say that how I think about it, geometrically speaking, is that a square in the birth chart it's about creation. But these are all the challenges that come together to create an aspect of ourselves. You know, we're the drivers of this. So however you choose to do that, if it's in your chart or however I choose to do that. But what happens is I have a phenomenal number of squares, you know, to my moon, which is my emotions, and some other stuff. So it's not an excuse, but sometimes I get overwhelmed with these emotions, and I'm just grappling with it. And I don't know, maybe some of you can relate with this creative process. But I'm pretty good at encouraging myself to keep going. I'm pretty good at encouraging myself to find the courage to speak after I've been in a silent mode for a while. And I know it might seem like calling it courage is a lot, but it kind of is. I mean, that's what it is, because if it was something I didn't really care about, or I wasn't putting my name and face to it, and I was just repeating something boring, well, that wouldn't be hard. but you know, putting your all into something and, you know, creating from scratch, and then trying to create a good product, and not autistic, an artistic product. No, I'm not autistic, but sometimes I get really, really deeply analytical in a way where I get really super quiet. So I guess that might be a flavor of that, but I don't see myself that way at all. But I guess it is like maybe one of their qualities, right? Where you just making all these observations, thinking about the energies. When I do my videos, I consciously am creating them in a higher dimensional space. And, you know, if you've ever, you know, read, like, I don't know if any of you know Sandra Walter, for example, she puts out these emails and updates on her blog about energy. And she always talks about how they are light encoded, okay? And what I would say is it's a similar idea in that when I'm communicating and when I'm doing my videos, I'm including I'm using my voice and my presentation to create something with you energetically that you can receive, that is part of the divinity within me coming through and being, you know, one-to-one with the human that I am, but being and creating well, I think of it as plasma energy, but this is expanded space, okay, of being. And so some of you, when you write in the comments, you'll say, oh, you know, I fall asleep to your voice or whatever. I do the same thing listening to my videos. Now, I believe part of what that is this transmission of energy. Kind of, it's like an energy frequency, but it represents a particular dimensional state of being. And I do the best I can to have that be at 0 point. And so what happens is, what I find, okay, when I get called into that, you know, like sometimes during the day, you just get like ridiculously, incredibly sleepy, right? You just have to nod off. I call that being called into the dream time, okay? Because as human beings, right, are receiving, sometimes we're consciously, it can be challenging to receive higher spiritual information. And do you hear the airplane? And I love how I have things set up here because I can hear the sky. So I listen to the sky, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, it's kind of that idea of, you know, the expanded space. Now, where was I? So I feel that of course, you might just be tired, okay? But there's a quality to the sleepiness that I feel is about being called into the higher dimensions, where you can commune with your higher self, your spiritual guides, your own soul, your guides, the highest light. I'm talking about your soul source connected higher self. And I say that because not everybody has a higher self that is like the direct soul representative. And that's because not everybody is working at that level, but you can call on that level. So it's kind of like it can be a shifting into that consciousness, okay? And there's an integration of levels of who you are. So where eventually you're connecting with your higher soul source connected self. Now, to get back to what I was saying, when you fall off or you're not off, because, you know, as you're listening to my videos, to me, what that could partly be is a call from your own soul source connected self or energies or your spiritual guidance team or whatever that is for you. That's calling you to commune with them. And, you know, when I allow myself, when this happens to me in my life, and I allow myself to just lie down in the moment, right? Because sometimes you're doing human things and you can't, but sometimes you can. You can ask yourself to have a remembrance or a feel of remembrance, because bringing the energy from a different dimensional state to this dimensional state can be challenging, right? Bringing the information. And sometimes once you practice, you can bring information, but sometimes there's a feeling of slipping away, you know, or you just like, you knew it, like you knew everything, right? In that moment of communing, and then you wake up and you're like, wait, I just had it. Anyway, there's things you can do to work with that to get better at it. But anyway, what I'm saying is that when I transmit in this expanded state, what I'm doing is I'm presenting to you a frequency band or a dimensional state, the band of transmission of a dimensional state. You can then choose to mirror that within yourself. And by mirror that, I mean you create it within yourself. I am doing nothing, okay? Except for saying, hey, this is what this feels like. You know, this is the energy. If you generate that within yourself, you are choosing, and you and your higher self and your spiritual guidance team, your guides, highest light, however you see that. But you're choosing, oh, hey, I like the feel of that. I am going to create that. Okay. And then with your own adjustments so that it is completely in resonance with you. Okay. It's a renaissance of your soul connection. It's a renaissance of your own connection with the higher energies as they are for you. And so, you know, I think it's cool when people tell me that, because from my point of view, that's what's happening now. Also, maybe you're just taking a nap and that's it. So, you know, sometimes it's just a normal human process of taking a nap. So I kind of thought that if I came on and shared about how my emotions were all like in this this ball, and actually what happened was I had a nice chat with someone today, and they were asking me about my YouTube channel, and I started crying when I talked about the fact that I hadn't done a video in, let's see how many days, 5 days. Well, if I publish it today, I don't know if it'll be 4 or 5 days. And I started telling about how I felt about that and how it was so hard to talk, but how I really wanted to, and how I feel like I feel bad that I have an audience and that I haven't posted a video. Okay, so it's not a sense of obligation. I'd say it's because I don't like to create cords or ties with anyone else. Okay, or with anything else, not even with my own channel, right? I don't create. You see, when you have an obligation, you create a cord. And that cord is kind of like not natural. What I mean by that is it's not natural to the soul. It's a human creation. Now, there are human creations that are in co-creation with the soul and are also soul creations. But anyway, where was I here? It's a sense of inner responsibility, maybe even just to myself. The blessing of having this co-creative space where I can share with all of you and any of you who are watching and who appreciate my work. It's a huge blessing to me. And so I don't want to take it for granted. And yet at sometimes I have these creative, I don't want to call them not blocks, but they're creative. It's like, it's not really a struggle, but sometimes it feels like an inner struggle. Maybe it's letting myself be okay with not being able to talk or compose at the level of energy that I wish to. And sometimes when I've made videos in this energy, I just delete them because I can't generate that 0 point, when I talk, and that makes me sad for some reason. But I'm human, right? I'm human and I'm a soul. But sometimes it's important to give the human parts of ourselves space. The space to just be, the space to just work out our emotions, to be with our own self, to be with our own emotions, to muse over it, to mull over it, and to show up when, to show up and to keep going. And so I've been thinking that since this is, I've finally come to the understanding that this is a process that I go through. It's finally come to clarity for me. And so because it's finally come to clarity that this is a process, finally, after having the channel really active for 1.5 years, now I'm thinking that there might be, things I can do to let myself be okay with creating slightly differently when I'm in this part of the creative process, whether it's writing, whether it's, letting myself do poetry instead of the human, I don't know, whether it's, preparing, just doing clips of my old videos where I've already talked, or maybe it's sharing like this. I don't know. I guess I'll see if you guys are interested in hearing about this and see what you think. So that's just what I wanted to say, and now that I've shared with you maybe all of these, pressures emotionally that I feel, it's not really a pressure. It's like It's like the pinging of a sensitive point, right? And all these points are being pinged at the same time. So sometimes life happens. The human resonance. It's all about the vibe.